I'm Realtor Deb Tomorrow, and this is At Home in Bloomington, brought to you by Karen Russell, Ruoff Home Mortgage. We profile the people, places, and resources that make Bloomington, Bloomington, and help you live your best life. At Home in Bloomington. Hello, and welcome to At Home in Bloomington. We're going to have a great show today because we've already out of control and the show hasn't even started yet.
Yes.
Hi, Karen. Thanks for joining us. I'm Realtor Deb Tomorrow. I have to go through my spiel. I'm Realtor Deb Tomorrow. This is my show. Yay. And this is Karen Russell. Hi, Karen.
Hey, Deb.
Karen Russell is the best damn lender in the state of Indiana and our show sponsor, so thank you for that. We are going to cover a lot of ground today because our guest has a lot going on. And I think she's such a perfect fit for our show because I'm going to get deep here for a second. Are we ready for that?
I'm ready.
Everybody pour a glass of wine. I'm going to get deep here for a second. What we're trying to do, what I'm trying to do, my goal is to give listeners a sense of community. I mean, that's why we call it At Home in Bloomington. We want people to feel at home in Bloomington. Mm-hmm. And within this large community of Bloomington where we want you to feel at home, or Monroe County, even Ellettsville, we love you out there in Ellettsville. There's smaller communities, right? I mean, we all have our little communities that we live within. You know, I have a real estate community. Hobbies and interests create communities. We were just talking about, there's a roller derby community. There's a group, and that creates a community that you want to be in.
I'm longing to be in that roller derby community.
Yeah, so if anybody's listening.
Yes.
There's a pub quiz community, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've learned about that on past shows. There's a maker community. We learned about that when we did our show with Blooming Labs. There's a recycling community. We learned about that when our show with Green Camino. Churches and schools and businesses and all those communities make us feel a part of something. And I really think that even though it's not on the list of, water and food and love, it's a basic human need. Even, a lot of people are surprised to find out that I really am, at my core, I'm an introvert. I don't really care that much for people. I probably shouldn't say that online. It's like, I'll never be president of the United States because they said she hates people. But anyways, but we all want to be a part of something. And when you're a part of something, it, allows you to be inspired by others. It helps you feel not alone. And in a sense, it gives you sort of a feeling of control and of power and all those things that I think is what we need to feel security and to feel safe and to feel stable.
That's pretty deep, Deb.
I know, right? I told you to pour a glass of wine.
Deep thoughts.
Deep thoughts with Deb Tomorrow. So, there's a lot of crap going on in the world right now. And we don't talk about the crap on the show because that's not what it's about. But I'm still going to take a little bit of a stand. This is a quote I actually put out a couple of years ago with a project that we were doing. It's one of my favorite quotes. It's by Bishop Desmond Tutu. Do you remember this one?
I think so.
Do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that will overwhelm the world. And I just think that's so powerful. That's just a little bit of what we're trying to do here on At Home in Bloomington, is just do a little bit of good by helping listeners find that greater sense of community. And then hopefully those people will go out and overwhelm the world.
Absolutely.
So there you go. So that's what our guest goal is too, in a way. Do you have any guesses as to who our guest is? Because if you're a first-time listener, play along. We never tell Karen who the guest is, so she's been sitting across the table from our lovely guest for about 20 minutes and has absolutely no clue.
Yeah, we've had a great conversation, and apparently we're both going roller skating tonight. But no, you haven't given me any hints whatsoever. I can't.
You've done a good job not looking at my notes.
I can't even see. I don't have my glasses on.
Okay,
so I can't
excellent.
See,
all right, well, here you go. All right, so she is a shopkeeper.
Like a retail shopkeeper, or
She has a lot more than
shop.
that. She has a lot more than that, but
okay,
at a very basic level. So, have you ever heard of the store Gather?
No.
It's downtown on the square. She probably doesn't like to hear that you haven't heard of her store.
Wait,
but that's why we're here.
Is it between? Is it between Kirkwood and 6th? I may have then. Wait a minute. On the right. Well, obviously, it's on the right hand side because it's the only thing.
Yep. You see it in your head.
I do. It's past OP Taylor's.
Yep, you got it.
Okay.
So welcome, Talia Halliday from Gather.
I'm going to write that down.
Oh, gosh, that took us a long time to get there, didn't it? Right.
Now, now I'm trying to visualize. No, but I'm trying to visualize the storefront. Because usually when I'm passing by or walking by, it's later at night.
After you've been at Malibu?
No, on my way to like the Bluebird or,
or
you know what I'm saying?
Rod Tough Curls.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, rod tuftrell. So,
all right. So tell us what Gather is about.
Lots of things, lots of community-based things like Deb was talking about. At Gather, we represent well over 300 different artists. And whenever I welcome a new artist into the family, that's always what I say, is welcome to the family. And so we're really about creating a community of artists and people that like to create, and I don't know, that's really what we do.
Right. And so, I guess that's kind of where I was going with my intro, was that you really are about community and creating a place for artists to have an outlet. So how long is the storefront? I don't know if you want to tell the whole story of, it's a really interesting story of how you kind of got to the storefront.
Sure. So we've been in our current location for about a year and a half. But before that, we've had our brick and mortar location for 4 years. We just celebrated our 4-year anniversary over Labor Day weekend. And then for the year and a half before we had our brick and mortar, we did what we call pop-up shops for about a year and a half, just popping up for different events. And that's how we grew. So we've been doing what we've been doing for about 5.5 years.
Awesome. And so what can people expect when they walk in to Gather?
So when you walk in to Gather, we try to make it always changing. So everything's handmade. Like I said earlier, we have about 300 different artists, give or take, depending on what day you come in. It's always evolving. It's always revolving. It's always moving. Everything's handmade, mostly here in the Midwest. They're mostly from makers that I've met personally doing craft shows and art shows for the past 10 years. We do have a few makers that are from, Portland, Oregon, or Georgia, just because I've traveled to those places and met those people. But then we have things sort of all over the place. So we have T-shirts and bath and body. We have children's items. We have art, posters, illustrations. We have lots of cards, clothing, handmade clothing,
underwear,
candles, underwear.
They have underwear. We had a couple different artists.
We do, yeah. We had someone come in this past weekend, and they didn't really know what our store was about, but they walk in and they see ceramic mugs over here, and then they see underwear, rainbow underwear, no less. And he was like, "What kind of store is this? They have underwear and mugs." And I was like, "Well, they're handmade." Like,
right, that's the common thread, right?
And then it sort of all made sense, and his daughter, was very embarrassed.
Oh, college
by
dads.
him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Could have been my dad. And so do you have 300 artists? Like, do they revolve through the store, or because I was in there yesterday.
Yeah.
And were there 300 artists working?
So on any given day, it's hard to tell on any given day how many artists are being represented, just because, some artists, we operate on consignment, if that makes sense. I'm just tell you my business, basically. Sure. And so I meet these artists. They either apply or I seek them out, and then they send me what they can. And sometimes what that means is that I might not get a restock, and then I still have to fill my shelves. And so I let in another artist, and then maybe 2 months later that artist does restock my shelf. And so it's hard to tell on any given day how many different artists we have in the store, but we try to keep everything aesthetically sort of on the same wavelength, and then price point wise on the same wavelength to represent the store in a consistent manner.
Right. One of the things I was thinking about when I was doing some of my show research, I am not an artist in any way, shape, or form. My mother, however, is. I did not get that gene from her at all. But I know sometimes how long it takes for her to create things, and everything's sort of one of a kind. And I thought, well, gosh, how many items does an artist have to be able to get into your store? Because it's different when you're creating, on a commission base versus for retail.
Sure. And I mean, every artist is different. So we just accepted someone that walked in the door the other day, which I don't advise to do, but she did walk in, and I told her exactly how to apply, and she went online and she applied, and she makes one thing. And she came in and she has that one thing in our store, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I have another artist. I mean, the way we have our point of sale system is everything's listed under the artist's name. And so sometimes that artist's name will have just one item, like the person that came in the other day. But then we have some really prolific artists that might have 300 different SKUs under their name.
Oh, wow.
And it just depends. And so I like to, every artist is different. Every relationship is different. And so it just depends how they produce. And I work with them on that.
And I mean, do they have one or two things, or do they have to be able to put, give you 50 inventory items?
No. So like I said, the person that came in the other day, she makes one item, and she brought me like 8 of them. Okay. I don't want one of something. That's never, that's retail 101.
Right.
No one's ever going to buy that. Mm-hmm. But so we try to create, a little story. We write a little story with every display. So as long as you bring me enough items that can create a short story, then we're good to go.
Interesting. And so what's your background? Is it retail or is it?
My background is in English.
Okay.
The language.
Yay, liberal arts. I'm a French degree, so I'm a realtor,
So yeah, my undergrad is in English and my master's is in English education. And then I have no art school background and I have no business background. Both of my parents own their own businesses and have my entire life essentially. My mother and stepfather run a landscaping business. My father runs a bar that he inherited from my grandfather, and so that sort of entrepreneurial blood is just there. I have to be my own boss. That's really, my mom told me once when I was a kid that I'd be a really great supervisor one day. Clearly she was correct. So yeah, my degrees are in English. What happened was I got pregnant. I was trying really hard to get pregnant, and it was right after I finished my master's in secondary education and finding an English secondary ed job in Bloomington because I married someone who had children, so we were not leaving Bloomington anytime soon or ever. And which I don't want to, was not going to happen. And so it was like, well, I'm gonna focus on getting pregnant rather than try to find a job. And then while doing that, it just so happened that Etsy, which is an online place where people were starting to sell their artwork at that time, was very up and coming. And a friend of mine had told me, hey, you should, I'd always made random things generally. I took a bookmaking class at IU in undergrad, and so I was always making books for gifts for people, and so I started listing those on Etsy, and so that's where this whole sort of thing came to be, was from that Etsy community at the beginning.
And you still make?
I do. So I still make journals. Okay. So I started making just everything, but I made books, and then I kind of dabbled in all kinds of things, and then I still, to this day, now I make leather journals and leather bags.
And you can buy those in the store, too?
You can. My studio is actually located in the back, I don't know, eighth of the store. So I have about 400 square foot studio in the back of the store. And then I sell some of my work. If I'm lucky enough to make enough of it, it will come to the front of the store.
Well, and I was stalking you online, and as any good host would do, and you have a list of stores around the country where your work is, and one of them is one of my favorite stores in Bar Harbor, Maine. That we go every year, and I was like, nice. I know that store. Yeah. We always go in there, so that was kind of cool. So next year I'll have to.
That's awesome.
I'll be one of those obnoxious people, like, I know this person who made this bag.
I had someone send me a text the other day. I got picked up by, I think it's called Greenfield Village, which is the museum store at the Henry Ford Museum.
Yeah, up in Dearborn, Michigan.
Yeah, and they took a picture of my work there, and they were like, I saw your stuff.
That's really cool. That's awesome. So let me ask you this, because can you buy online?
No. So
don't apologize for it, because I feel like there's a reason.
And I apologize for it. Yeah, I have to explain myself a lot. We have a lot of tourists that come in the store, and they say, can we find you online? I say, no, but you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Instagram, and anything you see, send me a message, email, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and I'll make it happen. I don't sell online because I don't want to compete with my makers. All of my makers have online presences, and that's how they make their living. And so I have no desire to compete with them. I'm just here to accentuate what they're already offering. Plus, we're constantly changing the inventory in the store. I have a life outside of my job, though a very small one. There's no way I could ever list everything that we have in the store, and since it's always changing, and a lot of it's one of a kind, so taking images of everything that we have is just not realistic.
Right. No, but I wanted you to make sure that, because I thought your explanation, I heard this on another podcast you were on, so I stole the question, because I thought that's a really important thing. I think that's natural for consumers to go, well, why can't I buy it online? But your explanation makes a lot of sense. And if you love that artist, I'm sure you would encourage people who aren't here to go to their Etsy store or wherever and continue to support that artist, because that's really what you're getting at, is supporting these artists.
I opened a store in Bloomington for a reason. I wanted to share all of these artists that we had because of the market, which is where I found all of them through the Bloomington Handmade Market, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But I wanted to share them with them, and the way in which I could do that was opening this brick and mortar. And so the brick and mortar exists for Bloomington. It just so happens that retail is really moving, online, and that's okay. I still exist for Bloomington.
Yeah, which I think is great because, we've all been through these downtown areas that the retail's gone away. So I certainly have an appreciation for all the retail efforts being made, in our downtown area, because that's helping keep that sense of, it's what we say about this show, that we profile the people, places, and resources that make Bloomington, Bloomington. Our downtown makes Bloomington. Bloomington's the adjective with which we describe Bloomington, right? You with me?
But I think the concept of your shop is perfect for our city, because where else, like I always say this, like where else would that work? I mean, like you were mentioning, a lot of downtowns, like the hometown I'm from, they're just getting back to revitalizing their downtown, and there are some shops now coming in where people can stay local, where that was a thing of the past, so plus, and if I'm thinking of the same storefront that you're located at, I can't remember. It's been a while since the last time I was in that actual shop with a previous, store. So, a lot of different things that kind of come through downtown. But the minute you said it was downtown, I'm like, I know where that is. I may not know. And that's why I wanted to have.
So I wanted to have her on the show, because it's one of those places that we've driven by 6,000 times, and I want people to stop and get out of their car. I found a 20 minutes left on a parking meter around the corner on 6th Street, yay me, and and go in and look around and see, because what are some of your favorite things? And I know you don't want to play favorites with artists, but we'll just give an example of some of the things that are in the shop.
Well, I mean, we just got in a lot of things today, so I can easily play favorites just because that's what's on my mind. So we have an artist, her name's Marcy Davey. She's from Michigan. She used to do the Bloomington Handmade Market, but she's from Michigan, so it's a little further for her, so she sells in the store. Her brand name is All Things Grow, and it's all screen printed, and it's primarily, I mean, it's near and dear to my heart. Obviously, it's called All Things Grow, so it's lots of trees and nature and going camping, and it's beautiful, like subdued pastel tones, and they're one of a kind, and they're ready to hang canvases because she prints on canvas, so you don't have to frame it, you don't have to do anything. It's a perfect gift. And they're small enough so you don't have to go, oh, do I have this large of a space on my wall? You can create a little gallery, and they're really well priced and really well made. And so those are really popular in the store. And then candles, they're really popular in the store too. They're really fun. I can't smell them when they come in because it's really overwhelming. We probably have over 100 different scents in the store. Yeah. More than that, probably. But whenever someone purchases one, I'm like, oh, I must smell it. So those are really fun too.
You also had some really cool Indiana and IU things. There's a whole little Indiana section, and I thought that's really nice for gifts. And some of it's IU themed, and some of it's just Indiana themed. I mean, there's earrings that have the state of Indiana, and just all kinds of platters and things like that. So I think probably, we'll be doing some Christmas shopping there this year to, ship off to family members who've left Indiana.
I feel like that is what caught my eye when the first time I saw the store, and I could be wrong, but there was something near the front. This was after hours that was not IU, but it was Indiana themed, but it was for Bloomington, and I was like, I don't know if it was a shirt or like a wood, I don't know, picture of some. I'm like, that's what I want. Because I've been here since '92, and I'm still learning, obviously, especially through this podcast series, are all the things that we have here that are here, and I live here, and I used to work downtown, and I don't know how I miss things.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to remember too about the Gather store is that it changes every day, and so it's the kind of place you should be visiting on a weekly or every couple of weeks basis, because there's going to be something new. It's not going to be the same stuff all the time.
Yeah, always new little treasures. So
yeah, for sure.
One of the fun things that we have, because you're right, we do have like an Indiana section, and then we do have like a sort of a more detailed or specific Bloomington section as well. And we have a poster by an artist who used to live here. Now she lives in Chicago, Gina Leese, and it's a Bloomington-based poster, and she has these little tiny graphics for all these like very Bloomington things, so like the chocolate mousse gathers on their roller derbies represented, all kind, the sample gates, IU, all of those things too.
She is pulling on my heartstrings right now.
Well, because it always reminds me of, I was here for my undergraduate and my graduate work, and then I left for about 10 years or so, and when I decided to come back, I told a couple of my college friends, and they were like, oh my gosh, you're living the dream. And it's like, yeah. And then you come back and you realize it's a little bit different when you're a grown up, and it had changed a bit. And yeah, you had bills to pay, and it wasn't like you were, out drinking every night or whatever college kids do. But still,
but I don't know. The grown up Bloomington's pretty cool. Like,
it is pretty
cool.
I
like to say that the college Bloomington is up to Walnut on Kirkwood, and then the square is like sort of the adult Bloomington. Yeah. So I've reached the adult Bloomington finally.
Yeah.
Myself.
Of course, with the scooters now, it's just everywhere. But anyways, we won't go there. All right, we're going to go to break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about Gather, but also the Bloomington Handmade Market, because that's a pretty exciting thing that if you haven't checked out, you should check out too. So stick around. You're at home in Bloomington.
Hi, this is Karen Rastel with Ruoff Home Mortgage. Did you know there are low or no down payment options available? If you're interested in buying a home but not sure about your options, contact me today at 812-606-7653. Together we'll make your dreams of home ownership come true. Ruoff Home Mortgage is an Indiana corporation licensed by the Indiana Department of Financial Institutions. This is not an offer for extension of credit or a commitment to lend. All loans must satisfy company underwriting guidelines. Equal housing lender. NMLS number 141868.
This is your Real Estate Realist. Practical advice on buying and selling real estate based on my experience closing over 800 home sales. Got turned down for credit? Don't give up. As we like to say, every day you take a step in the right direction is a day closer to the reality of home ownership. Standing still just won't get you there. It's important to understand why you were turned down for a mortgage. So here are 3 questions you need to know the answers to before you walk away from the lender's office. Number 1, is it credit score? Obviously, a large part of getting a mortgage is based on your credit score. Is it too low? What are some steps you can take to improve your credit? We have several podcasts about that. Number 2, maybe your credit score is fine, but you are carrying too much debt. This is common today with so many carrying student loans. Debt won't always get you turned down, but it can have a significant impact on your purchasing power. You may only qualify for a low purchase price, which may be unrealistic in your market. But there are things you can do like paying down debt, receiving gift funds, or getting a cosigner. Number 3, is the problem lender specific? Without getting too detailed, different lenders do have different rules, even for the same loan program. I always recommend getting a second opinion with a different lender before you give up. The most important thing is that you create a plan and you work it. Home ownership is possible. Maybe not tomorrow, but possibly next year, and it's a goal worth working towards. For more information on what to do when you get turned down for a mortgage, check out my Real Estate Today podcast number 42. You can find it on iTunes, YouTube, and my website, www.athomeinbloomington.com.
My name is Brittany, and Deb Tomorrow is my realtor. She helped me buy my first home. I enjoyed working with Deb because she was patient, thorough, and made the experience fun. Deb should be your realtor too. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to At Home in Bloomington. I'm Realtor Deb Tomorrow, joined with Best Damn Lender in the state of Indiana and sponsor Karen Rastel and owner of Gather, Talia Halliday. Before we get back to Talia and Gather and Bloomington Handmade Market, I want to take a moment to do our Facebook follow segment. I'm a little redundant here because I want to give a shout out to the very first guest we had on our first episode, which is Bloomington Parks and Recreation.
Yes.
You remember the show we did about the Switchyard Park, which was amazing. It was a great show, and I definitely want people to listen to that. But there's a lot more to Parks and Recreation than just Switchyard Park. There's so much going on, so many events. I feel like there's stuff every day, whether it's concerts in the park or events, hikes, and I mean, it's just amazing what they have going on. So following them on Facebook is a great way to keep up, and I want to encourage people to do that. They've got fitness videos, event calendars, I mean, all kinds of stuff. And did you know that they just won a huge award? Well, of course you knew that. we previewed that on the show that we did, the episode we did with Paula McDevitt, who was the director of Parks and Recreation. They were up, the Parks and Recreation was up for a national award, the National Parks and Recreation Association, and they named Bloomington Parks and Recreation the best department in the nation, which is pretty amazing.
It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to give a plug for myself once again, because I can. Go onto their YouTube channel, Parks and Recreation. There's a video that they had to create to submit for this award, and the voice might be familiar, doing the voiceover for it. So I don't take any of the credit, but I will tell you that they announced this award last week, and I was literally on Facebook refreshing every 5 minutes because I was like, I need to know.
Yeah.
I felt like I had a personal stake, and then when they announced it, I may have cried. Just a little bit. I like seeing people work really hard and have success.
I love it. You can cry.
That makes me cry.
You can cry, but when I cry at things, you're like, you need to stop crying. You can't cry in football. You can't cry watching football.
You can't cry because your son's sitting in a suite and we're not sitting in a suite at a football game.
It was just really sweet.
Okay. Nobody's going to understand what the hell we're talking about. But anyways, don't mind us. All right, back to Talia. Before I forget, shop hours, and give us, the address is 116?
Yes, 116 North Walnut. And yeah, Karen was right. We're just past, we're between Seaview and Global Gifts. We have a couple empty spaces between us, but just past O.P. Taylor's and Malibu Grill. We're open Tuesday through Sunday, so we're closed on Mondays.
Okay.
Tuesday through Saturday, we're open 11 to 6.
That's what your door says.
Yes. And then Sunday, we're open 11 to 4.
Great. So if you've ever had headshots taken, this is obscure, but if you've ever had headshots taken in downtown Bloomington, the alley right next to with the brick wall, my headshots were taken there. Yeah. So if you have my business card, I think that's where they did my son's senior picture. Many senior pictures are taken in that alleyway, and also many like modeling shots of, because you guys have clothing and things like that in the store as well.
Yeah.
I think I saw some pictures. I saw some pictures, and I was like, oh yeah, that's where my headshots were taken. So it's a pretty famous alley in Bloomington. It must have just the best lighting or something.
Well, and there's that great view of the courthouse. And there's good lighting. It doesn't smell horrible either, which is really good considering you're downtown.
Some alleys, not so much. All right, let's talk about some events. You've got some crafting events that people can take advantage of. Yeah, so we try to, like I said, continue to create community with Gather. So we've partnered with Switchyard Brewing to bring Crafternoons, which is we're scheduling them on Sundays at Switchyard. And they'll change up, throughout the year with Crafternoons. And then we're also partnering with Cup and Kettle. My friends own Cup and Kettle, which is a tea shop just down the street from us, also on Walnut, to bring you Wellness Wednesdays, because we're really interested in self-care and wellness and things like that. And then just throughout the year, we'll continue partnering with other local businesses to bring different kinds of events, be it crafting or activism or wellness. We'll just continue to do that. So if you just follow us on Facebook or Instagram, you can find out information about all those events. So what are the kinds of things that would happen at a wellness event? So we're starting our wellness things in November, and what's sort of on the plate for those, we're looking at massage, hand massage, chair massage, things like that. We're looking at movement, like yoga, or I have one of my good friends teaches a class called Nia, which is a sort of modern dance meets yoga meets martial arts. So some movement. We'll also always have some kind of make and take, because that's what we do. Right. But it will be probably something for your body. So either like a salt bath or sugar scrub or essential oils or facials or something like that. And then also meditation, some things like that as well. So just sort of lots and lots of things and lots of collaboration with other local businesses. And is that going to be sort of like an open house? Like it'll go on for, a few hours and people can kind of come and go and explore? And right now what it's going to look like, because we're just sort of starting these out, and so I'm not positive what it'll look like in the future. Right now it's just an hour of really intense sort of self-care. It'll be limited space because we can only do so many sort of chair massages in 1 hour, so we'll probably sell tickets for that, and it'll be a limited fee, mostly so that the makers and the people that are doing something make what they need to make. Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, cool. And then the Crafternoons at Switchyard. I know you've got one I saw for like needlepoint or felting, which I kind of know what it is, but I don't really know what it is. And my question on that is that something where you have to have a baseline level of knowledge or complete like...
No, all of our Crafternoons, I really, I try to find a craft that anybody can do. And that's sort of the goal, is that and then I am going to instruct you to do it, but it's not like a hardcore class where you have to listen to me, because we are at a bar and you are going to drink beer and you're probably going to bring your dog. So you're not going to want to listen to me a whole lot. So it's mostly about coming in, I'm going to sort of tell you what to do, and then you're going to hang out with your friends and make the thing.
So you're going to kind of teach the technique, but then leave the creativity. So it's not like wine and canvas, which is fun, but you go in and your goal is to create exactly what everybody else is creating, but with your own kind of spin.
Yeah. I really like to let people go and do what they want to do, and I'm there if they need me, by all means. Last month we did tea towel stamping, so I provided tea towels and some stamps and some paint and told everybody what to do, and then they just had a ball doing it, And this time it's a little more intense because it is needle felting, so it's a really sharp needle that you poke into a ball of felt over and over and over again to create.
Is that how you shape it?
Yeah, that's how you shape it.
Because I've seen the felting technique. Do you know what that is?
No, this is why
I don't know how to explain it, but it's sort of like, if you imagine sort of a really tight ball of wool, but it's sort of been plucked and poked, and so you can shape it.
Yeah, so it's sort of like sculpture. So you start with what's called roving, which is just sort of raw yarn, as it were, but it's not even yarn. It's roving. Okay. But you sort of make it into a ball, and then you continue poking it and just work your way around to sort of shape it. Not like clay, but kind of like clay, because you're poking it with a really sharp
So would you be making, I'm trying to think if I've ever seen anything like that and not realize that that's what it was, but you would be making just any, abstract...
we're going to be making pumpkins.
Okay.
Because it's November, or it'll be November when they do the class. But I have a felted, how do we call it, a felted wool purse.
Now, and so that could be something different, too, because there's also just wet felting. And so what somebody... maybe, I don't know, probably did, is knitted or crocheted an item, and they knit it sort of larger than life, and then
you wash your sweater and it shrinks.
Yes, and so that will felt it as
You find the large sweaters at Goodwill and they're teeny tiny. It's because someone washed the wool sweater. Interesting. See how much we've learned? Well, Karen has a little more crafting than I do. I don't have.
I have the idea. Well, no, I have an idea, but I never know how to put it together. And then I don't tell anybody, but I'm still waiting for someone to go and do these ideas that are still in my mind. I've been trying to do something for a year and I still don't know how. But anyways,
that's what
I have the idea. I'm the classic Pinterest fail, but no, I always have these ideas and think that would be fun to do. So,
but sometimes going to a Crafternoon event, even though felting might not be what you want to do, if you go and you do it and you create and you're able to feel success, and then empowers you to go and create what you really
I feel success all the time. Come on.
Well, you are Karen Rostow.
However,
that's stamp lender in the state of Indiana.
But no, it's what we have said on previous shows. It's nice to know what you're about to walk into and how an event like that would play out. Because for someone who has no idea, but I have the energy and the excitement to go do it. I don't know what I'm about to walk into.
Sure.
That makes me a little nervous.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and we try to put on the event all ages, all skill levels welcome. And if somebody comes in and does know how to do it, then they might leave with, I don't know,
the Taj Mahal.
Who knows?
So you could bring a child to the Crafternoon.
Any of the Crafternoons you can bring them to. The needle felting one's a little harder just because we are dealing with sharp needles, but generally speaking.
Well, I was thinking because the location, and you can have beverages.
Yeah.
I didn't know if children could come.
How much does a Crafternoon typically run?
They're usually between 15 and 20, and you get, if you register before, I think it's a week before the event, then you get a free beer with that $15 too.
Score!
So, yeah, it's really a win-win, and you get to hang out with your friends, usually try to, get some people to come with you.
For sure. So that Facebook and then also your website, you can find all that information.
Yeah, which our website is just gathershoppe.com, but shop is spelled like you're British, so it's gather, SHOPPE.com.
Yes. And I think if you just Google Gather Bloomington, it comes right up. At least it did for me. So, all right, let's talk about Bloomington Handmade Market. Was that the one we went to that one year and it was freezing cold?
Yes.
Okay, so Karen and I went one year. It was freezing cold, but it was really cool stuff, and it was jam-packed, which helped with the chill because we had a lot of body temperature. So how long has Bloomington Handmade Market been going on?
So we're celebrating 10 years this year.
Which is crazy. Like, that's longer than I don't think I knew about it until a few years ago.
I only knew about it when we were starting to get, I'm like, I've been seeing advertisements for this. And so I didn't know where it was happening prior to that. But no, it was so fun, but it was super cold that particular time we went.
And I think we were aware of it that time because the Wood Frog, Jill and Scott Stowers are friends of ours and clients of ours, and they were it was their first year doing it, and so we wanted to go and support them for sure. But so tell us a little bit about it. You haven't been involved the whole 10 years, you personally,
right? Well, I've always been a vendor.
Okay.
So we started in 2009, I think was the first year. It started at the Waldron. Three girls that were I think two of them were art students. The other one was sort of like a arts advocate. They decided they needed a market for indie DIY products. Nothing like that existed. We obviously have 4th Street Festival, which is one of the best art shows in the country, but they're fine art shows, and that's not what they were trying to go for. And so they created the Bloomington Handmade Market. It started at the Waldron up in the upstairs there, and I was a vendor at that show. And then they moved on in the spring. They moved down to what is now Campus Costume, I believe. It was KRC Catering when they did it. And so they did their first spring show at KRC, outgrew that, and then kept moving down down College and got to the convention center. And so did the second holiday show there at the convention center. And then by that time, I was brought on as an organizer. So I'd always been a vendor, and then just really got into that community and started making friends and sort of took it over, as it were, I guess.
And are most of the artists and makers local?
They're not all local. They're very Midwestern based, obviously. We have a lot of makers from Ohio, Indianapolis, a few people from Chicago, a few people from Michigan, some people from Kentucky, but definitely in our sort of tri-state area.
And what was interesting, because I learned this from our friends Jill and Scott who were in it, is that it's a juried show. Yeah. And so, do you know what that means?
No, I don't.
See, I did not know what that meant either, but Jill explained it to me. So explain us what juried means, because it does make a difference to the quality of show you have.
It does. I mean, much like our store, if you walk in and say, hey, I make something, can I sell it here? I'm going to say, well, do you think that you really fit in this store? And we do the same thing for the market. So we have people apply. Much like you would for a job, and so we open applications about 3 to 5 months before the actual event happens, and they have to provide images of their work and sort of an artist statement and tell us about how they make the item and where they're from, and I already said images. And then we sit down as a jury, and it's our board from Handmade Market, and sometimes we pull from past board members as well, and just have everyone sit down and sort of judge whether or not we feel like they're a good fit for the show. Most of that jurying really comes from trying to fit people in certain categories. So, we get well over 100 applications. We have about 65 spots to give. Well, probably out of those, let's say we had 150 applications, probably 75 of them are jewelers, or 60 of them are illustrators. Well, we don't want 60 illustrators, and so really it's more about trying to find a really cohesive look, but making sure that we have 5 jewelers, 5 illustrators, 5 housewares, 5 ceramics and pottery.
So each year, each vendor, do they need to reapply?
Every year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And just because you've gotten in years past doesn't mean, you're definitely getting the next year. We do try to let new blood in, so it's not the same show every year, much like the store. We also do let in, we know that you people that the audience comes to see certain vendors as well, and so we do let in the people that have been doing it for a long time as well. But we're always looking to make sure that our artists are growing and changing, because that's really important to us, that you're not making the same product that you made 10 years ago.
And how many times a year is it going on now?
So now we're back to 2 times a year.
Okay.
And now our spring show has sort of morphed over the years, but at this point we are doing a summer show. It's the first Saturday in June, and it's outside. It's our first outside event in the summer, which is really hard for me. And we're currently on the north side of the square. They're on 6th Street in front of Grazie and Kingdo.
Oh,
yeah.
So outside right there.
Yeah, right. So we closed down that road. This past summer was our first outdoor show. And so it was our first time like having to close down the street and having to deal with weather. It was really, really hot. Yeah. Really, really hot. Yeah. So that was new for us, but
And then usually have a show in November as well.
So then our holiday show is always the second Saturday in November. So this year it's November 10th at the convention center. We're upstairs at the convention center. We take up the entire upstairs. And it's from 10 to 4. We did change our hours this year. We've usually in the past been 10 to 5. But we've changed from 10 to 4 this year.
Okay. So make sure you check that out. So I want to encourage everyone to check out Gather on the square, 116 North Walnut. And again, their hours are closed on Mondays, Tuesday through Saturday, 11 to 6, and Sunday, 11 to 4. Look how I had that memorized there. And then check them out on Facebook. Do you have Bloomington Handmade Market has a Facebook page as well, right?
Bloomington Handmade Market has a Facebook, Instagram, and a website, and it's real easy. It's Bloomington Handmade Market on all the things.
Okay. And then the Gather website is gathershop.com, and you can check out all the cool stuff they have going on there. So check out what they're doing with that sense of community with the artist and the maker community. And I think, I might be wrong here, coming from not having any artistic talent at all, I love this idea that we're hearing more and more about makers. It makes it more accessible to people like me who maybe have some crafty ideas, but I don't fancy myself an artist. There's probably not deep meaning to anything I would create, except that I think it's pretty. But there's value in pretty things too, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, there's value in things that you make with your hands.
Yeah, right. And just expressing yourself. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks, Karen, for your sponsorship.
Well, I was going to say, thanks for bringing me back again. I appreciate you keeping me on the show.
I know.
Well, I'm just always thinking, gosh, this is so fun to everyone else because I never know what the topic is or who the guest is or is it person's name, nothing. And so then by the end of the show, then that's when I have all my questions. So I have to stop by the businesses to then, further my curiosity.
Right. And we always give you something to do.
Absolutely.
So you can never say you're bored because you're like, I'll just go back to the last podcast and be like, oh, there's something that I should be out in the community doing and checking out. So,
well, we're open late Friday nights. First Friday nights, if you ever need to walk by, and we'll be open.
She's out and about. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, listeners, for tuning in. Make sure you check out all of our episodes on the iTunes and the website athomeinbloomington.com. We'll be back with another great show at home in Bloomington. Got a show idea? I'd love to hear it. And be sure to contact me for all your real estate needs and questions, too. You can email me at deb@realrealestatetoday.com and follow me on Facebook at Deb Tomorrow Realtor. To contact Karen Rastel for all your mortgage needs, call 812-606-7653 or log on to ruoff.com and go to the Bloomington Center. Thanks to all the Bloomington people who make production of At Home in Bloomington possible. Special thanks to superstar producer Rachel G. Gregorio, digital guru Cynthia Hogan at Monster Digital Marketing for website design and hosting, and video genius Wes Lasher in the production house for engineering the show.